beloved ones, and welcome to Sophia Speaks. This series is sort of a marriage between the human aspects of living reality and the divine source consciousness coming in and being here, being present on Earth. My name is Megan. I am the Sophia Pearl, and for context on what that means, I would point you to episode 1 of this series, which speaks about my awakening and explains what all of this is. Beloved one, this is an episode that is about leadership, and I want to share these stories about experiences that I've had in my life that were so intensely difficult for my nervous system, but which were creating space and facilitating the eventual arrival of what would be my Sophia arrival of Christos frequency coming through this form. So, beloved ones, this is a 3-part story. And frankly, the 3rd part is really also episode 1 of Sophia Speaks. So maybe a little bit shorter, but we'll see how it flows. I try to move through these videos with as little preparation and really forethought or control, and just let the divine flow through. So I think I will start with the first time that I was really caught off guard and shown a deeper meaning to my life purpose than one that I had previously understood. In episode 2 and episode, I want to say 6, I mention that I am of German ancestry, and that for my healing and healing darker aspects of that lineage, I really threw myself into studying Holocaust and studying World War II. This was the focus of my undergrad degree in university, and it was almost like an obsession, if I'm honest. I needed to get into the skin of everyone who suffered. I was absorbing stories and histories from Holocaust survivors, from Holocaust perpetrators, such that I could find, speaking to family members. I was really doing my best to fully learn and integrate everything that I could from that time. At the time, my belief was that every single human being on earth was capable of incredible evil. And I'll extend this and say that it wasn't just the Holocaust that I was interested in, it was really genocide as a whole. And yes, an obsession with genocide, with war, with suffering. And I guess the abject kind of hopelessness of that, of what extreme suffering felt like, and an attempt to understand why humanity would be capable of such a thing. And how this ended up manifesting itself was in going to talks from survivors, sharing their stories and things like that. Elie Wiesel, the Nobel laureate, came and spoke at my university. And I lined up in the lineup for 6 hours beforehand to get a good seat. And in that lineup, met someone else who was talking about doing a campaign to bring awareness to what was happening in Darfur, in the Darfur region of the Sudan. And from that moment, I was really enthusiastic about this idea, but from that moment, we ended up gathering other people, and this entire student organization was formed. Elie Wiesel's message had been about being against indifference. Don't come after me about his political leanings. He had caveats to that belief, or that stand, that I personally do not have, never did have. But the essence of his message was that we should not look at the suffering of another being and pass it by and ignore it. We should not become so focused on our own existence that we would not acknowledge the atrocities that are happening. At this time in human history, that seems like such a poignant truth. But alas, it's been true at every moment in human history that atrocities can exist because it's not convenient for others to help. Where this lands with the divine is not as simple as all of that. But for the sake of this story, where that led us at the time was to form a student organization called Students Against Indifference, SAI, say. And our slogan was say something. And we created campaigns and student conferences and things to activate students, to encourage them to give a shit about the world outside of themselves, to engage with humanity, and to try to contribute. And ultimately, as an act of love, right? The point of this story is, for myself personally, my deep desire to understand human suffering and human cruelty was what led me there. And somehow I found myself thrown into this position of leadership where I was giving speeches all over the place. There was a speech of mine that was recorded for national television. I don't know if it was broadcast. There was just all of these opportunities for connecting with politicians and decision makers and community leaders, and very surreal experiences where there were members of parliament who were trying to do photo ops with me, and people introducing themselves randomly in the streets who had seen me speak. And my organization had an executive of 30 people right off the bat, which I was the leader of. You know, in the beginning, I was co-leader, and then ended up sort of being, whatever the structure was, but this crazy leadership that I had felt that I had no right or authority to be in. And honestly, even telling you this story is incredibly awkward for me because who am I? What? Like, I'm studying history. I care about humanity. This isn't, why do you want a photo with me? Like, how, this makes no sense, right? But there we were. And this group had a legacy. When I left, it carried on for a while afterwards. Like, it was a weird and wonderful and interesting kind of thing. And I don't know, I have no idea what impact we had on anyone's life, or if we raised awareness about anything, or if people went forth into the world, caring about more than just their own selfish interests, or I don't know. I don't know what impact any of that work had. But for myself, it was really weird. And I was thrown in to this experience where I was listened to, and my words had um, very measurable impact and power. And I was able to go into that flow, which I think was something else that really surprised me, was that it was very natural for me to be in that position. While I never felt that I had earned it, I had never felt that I was worthy of it, I could do it. And I was passionate. And I loved it. And I am grateful to have gone through that. It ended, or my really, not it ended, but my participation sort of waned as I had graduated, and I moved forward into other things in life, and it all just sort of fell away as I was in the workforce. And when I entered the workforce, I ended up being very much like bottom rung of a corporation that, like, I talk about this in my last episode. I worked at a call center. Like, this was not anything related to worldly ideas of power or persuasion or politics, anything like that. It was human, but anybody who had witnessed where I had been at that stage, I don't think would have thought that I would have then gone to work at a call center kind of trajectory. And that's good, because it was grounding, that I went from this state of expansion and then into a state of retraction. And my work after that was more inwardly focused, for my own journey and for how I approached the world. I ended up returning to a different institution and doing a diploma at a college in a law clerk program, and learning a whole bunch about the legal system. And I ended up teaching later on about the legal system, and developing a really interesting and robust skill set in that sense. I learned a lot about business in that time frame as well, through other experiences and other jobs. And I ended up meeting someone. She has a pattern, right? I ended up meeting a gentleman, a very wonderful gentleman, who was a survivor of the Rwandan genocide. And he had a dream for a way to make business education accessible for those who were working on the African continent, which is a vast area of the world that is ripe for opportunity within entrepreneurship, and really kind of is benefiting from those who are going forward and you have an entrepreneurial spirit to plant seeds right now. And Africa is an extremely wonderful place, full of potential. But at the time, there was very little in the way of practical, this word is energetically getting me caught up, accessible education for those who wished to go into business for themselves. And so my friend had this business idea to make that possible, to facilitate entrepreneurship on the African continent. Wonderful, brilliant idea. And I was blessed to be able to work with him on that project. And we found ourselves at the Africa Trade and Investment Global Summit. And this is an annual summit that takes place in Washington every year, right next to the White House. And it's a meeting of leaders from all over the African continent, really just discussing trade and investment moving forward into the year ahead. And we were blessed to be able to attend this and to network and to meet people, and it was incredible. And meeting politicians and leaders and princes and wild. All right, I'm so awkward about sharing this story on the internet. So awkward. So bear with me. You are witnessing my unfolding in action as I share this part of the story. I don't even know if I can post a picture of this. It's so weird for me to tell you this. So on the second day of this summit, this lady comes up to me and tells me Nelson Mandela's grandson is about to give an unscheduled speech in this other room. And so it was all by word of mouth. There was no, like, it wasn't on the docket of speakers that he was here. And at the time, Sia Belela Mandela was doing his PhD and really looking at the aspects of Africa that are still war-torn. And he was presenting like, okay, we're here at this trade and investment summit talking about all the wonderful things, but we still need to identify the fact and not be indifferent to the fact that people are still fighting each other, that there is still war, that there is still extreme poverty here, that all is not well and good in all areas. And we cannot ignore this truth. So he gave his presentation, and I have to speak to the fact that Sia's energy, he holds the energy of his grandfather, and it fills the space. Nelson Mandela came through so strongly through that presentation. And I had squeezed out at one point to use the bathroom. And while I was in the bathroom, and at this conference center, there's like the infinite mirrors. You see each other a million times as you look at yourself. And I make eye contact with myself. And this was before my Sophia awakening. A spirit told me, you need to stand up and ask a question during question period. You need to speak in this meeting. And okay, that was terrifying. And I went in with this knowing in my heart space. I went back and I listened, and then question period came, and there was a gentleman who stood up, and he was an entrepreneur, and he's talking about, you're talking about all this negativity, but like, there's so much to be grateful for. There's so much innovation happening. There's cell service. I can drive through all of these countries and never lose connection on my cell phone. We're doing so much. And then I stand up and I'm like, hi, thank you so much for having me here. It's such an honor. I was like one of the only white people, so that was something to point out, actually. I felt so deeply honored to even just be a fly on the wall and have conversations with people at this summit. So I addressed that, and thank you so much for having me here. Thank you for your wonderful presentation. Can you speak to the importance of engaging youth and inspiring them in entrepreneurship? And how do you see that as being actionable for forward growth on the continent? And he goes, yes, yes, this, you two should talk. Me and the other gentleman who had spoken before, you two need to get together and you need to talk. This is what we need. We need to inspire the youth and get them busy with creating business and not fighting each other. And we need to find a way to build up rather than to break down. Yes, yes, yes. And I was so humbled to be heard by and held in that spirit of Nelson Mandela and Sia Mandela. There's just this extremely beautiful energy, and that was received. And I want to cry right now, actually, reliving this. And I sat down, and all of a sudden, Sia Mandela, he's still talking. He's still sharing this beautiful frequency from Nelson Mandela. But next to me, there's this psst, and the guy in front of me turns around. Behind me, the guy who was in front of me from the question period earlier, he comes up and he comes and he's like, I want to meet with you in the VIP lounge later. And this talk had ended, and 2/3 of that room were lined up asking me for my card. We were a startup. We didn't have much going on to be able to share with people at that time. I barely spoke about what we had to offer and what I did and any of that. But my presence and my standing up apparently had some sort of impact on these people. And 2/3 easily of that room were crowded around me. Me. When Nelson Mandela's grandson, who is an exceptional human being, was still talking. And to be willing to receive that and to embody that. This was 7, 8 years ago. I'm still here crying about it. That was impossible to receive. How? How can one accept that? There have been few human beings on earth as beautiful and as resonant in their frequency as Nelson Mandela. How could I have attracted that energy in that room? How? I had the great honor afterwards, once I was able to extricate myself, of meeting Sia Mandela and actually meeting him again later and joining him later on and connecting with him at another time. Um, and again, he is a profound light in his own right, not even just all that he embodies with his grandfather, but he passes that on and injects this beautiful whole other framework in the container that he is. And I honor that so deeply. But how the hell did that happen? I don't know. So these two moments in my life, of course, again, right? Just like the first time, I went into a state of extreme withdrawal after this happened. And the integration has been a long time coming. But it's because of those two crazy things, those two massive in my own personal life, they were so massive in showing me something and showing me a truth of myself. Um, and speaking from Megan, not about the divine lesson of all of this, but just the what, right? Those two things were so massive for me. Now, when Sophia finally came and said, I am you, I had some ability to receive that because of what had happened before. Because how could that have happened before? How? As a human being, all I ever wanted, all Megan ever wanted, was to give love to others and to help other people. Was to, I'm gonna lose it. I'm so losing it. But as a little girl, all I wanted was to heal and to help and to serve. And I could see people's pain. And I just wanted to give them light. And then I wanted to learn, honestly, what I wanted was to learn about history so that I could then teach history and I could teach others about the human experience. And instead, I ended up not only learning history, but learning law and then teaching, and not law. I didn't go to law school. I was a law clerk, but legal basics, if you will, for law clerks. But I taught law for 5 years, which is ironic because I taught about the institution, which is really helpful to know, actually. And I still engage in history constantly. I'm always learning stories, always learning about what's gone before. I mean, as we're all aspects of source, history is so relevant. That's it. I just wanted to teach and to love. And then it's like, okay, but you're going to teach being against indifference. You're going to teach others about where love is needed. And then I don't even know what with the Mandela stuff. I don't. That one, and the words that just always resonated were, this was to tell you how powerful you are. I didn't ask for that. I didn't ask for that. And I'm here being human and being vulnerable with you now because all of this presentation, not presentation, I don't know if that's the word, this video that you're watching of me sharing this moment, this vulnerability, I did not ask for embodiment with source consciousness. I didn't. I never saw myself from the human lens. I've never seen myself as being worthy of it. I've never even seen myself as being capable of it. Leadership is not something that I've aspired to. Unless you consider teaching leadership, is that the same? I don't know. Passing on information. Clearly, I have not been meant for a political journey or a political path. And clearly, I have not been meant for, a crazy entrepreneurial path, or dare I say, even a public speaker path. But what is this? I guess this is public speaking in a sense. But a spiritual embodiment portal path. Here we are. This is very difficult to share with you. It is very beautiful. But I need to state from this vulnerability and from this humanity that it is not me, it is not my ego, it's not my human aspects. I'm not trying to be something here. I I know why because I've been told by source, but I don't know why me, as if that makes me something special or unique, or I'm just a human being, guys. I'm just a human being. And the truth is that you are just a human being with me who are also meant to embody this frequency. And I hope for your sake that it's not this uncomfortable. And it is what it is. We walk the path because it's what we're called to. We walk the path because we know that deep within ourselves there is no other choice. We don't have another option. We move as we are led to move. I am so grateful that in my Sophia awakening, I ended up meeting my now husband, and he has had experience with, honestly, fame, being known, and that's not weird for him. And to be supported in that way, not, I don't know. I'm inevitably I am public, but there is no fame here. Anyway, that's this leadership. Yay. So from the divine perspective, obviously the divine moves through us as we are meant to move, as we are meant to flow. And human and life experience is what it is meant to be. Everything preparing us for something else. Everything preparing us for our true divine purpose. And we all know, deep within your heart, what your life has shown you and what it has called you to. No matter how resistant you may be to that. Perhaps it has shocked you. Perhaps it is uncomfortable to be with. But it is truth. Thank you for listening to this. We're going to move forward with our code now. So I can move forward with this vulnerable emotional stuff. All right, beloved ones, thank you for holding me as I share that. We are going to move forward with our quantum code now. If you're just joining us for the first time, in each episode, we bring in a quantum code. And I mean, pure numbers are from source, and they help us to build the architecture of a new universe within the frequency of divine love. We use these codes by repeating them, by consciously focusing our intent on them from love, from our purity. The code for this week is going to be 776402. 776402. 776402. This code is the code of divine placement. This is a code for helping us to integrate those moments where the divine has indicated to us what our purpose is, what our truth is, what our mission is here on earth. It helps us to integrate that within the body, the nervous system, the mind. Clearly, I need to repeat this code myself more times. It's a code to help us to trust what all of that means, what that flow is, where it's taking us. It helps us to anchor that authority within our body. That you were given this mission because it's yours. Whatever that mission is, it's yours. Whether you think you're worthy, whether you think you can do it, whether you believe it's yours, it's yours. And this code helps you to truly ground that truth. This code helps you to release ego around your divine mission and to come into divine acceptance within that. Finally, it sort of helps to release the weight of what your mission is. Release the feeling maybe you experience foreboding or responsibility. And this code really helps the frequency to come in and anchor into the earth such that the body is not bearing the brunt of the immensity of it. This code helps all of it to integrate and to come in greater softness, greater foundation. Perhaps make us feel a little less like we are breaking from the immensity of the pressure. Not speaking personally at all, no. All right, beloved ones. Seeing you, honoring you in how you carry out your divine purpose. Witnessing the large moments in your life that have helped you to see yourself, that have guided you through your own awakening. You are celebrated and you are loved. And to remind you that you are not holding it all alone. Honoring who you are and what you do. And I love you.